It's up into Kansas now. Roger, do you have track of how many times I was out there?
I I I think you finished 3 XLs and what you've
Okay,
done 5 200s now, I think.
I just got my shallows this year for the 200, so I think 3 XL. So yeah, so I didn't do it last year, but I think every year, 3 years before that.
Right. I know we rode 3 together off and on.
Okay. So yes, I sometimes I forget, like between gravel worlds and Kansas, they sort of get mixed up. Like there's been hard versions of both. Definitely Kansas is harder. And my last one, I think it took me 29 hours. So I got a little beat up on that one. But yeah, looking forward to getting back out there. Go ahead, Roger.
Okay, I'll go. Um, so I started and finished 4 XLs. So the last 4 from 21 to 24. My first gravel race was DK 200 back in 19. Prior to that, I'd done other stuff, more mountain bike race and stuff like that. But and then yeah, all right, I've done 3 long voyages, gravel worlds long voyages also. So um, started all of them that I finished. So the mud didn't take me out in the mud year, and one year I crashed and broke my collarbone, but I still finished. Rode about 120 miles with a broken collarbone to get to the finish. So um, kind of determined to get to the finish, kind of no matter what the cost. So um, not saying I'm smart, but get the job done. So I'll pass it on to Dennis.
Oh yeah, hi. Um, well, I've actually started 3 XLs, and I get a little further every time. First time I think I got to about 188 miles, and that would have been in 21. 22 I had to defer because of some family things. So 23 was the mud year, and I guess my claim to fame there is that I made it 1 mile further than Ted King. I think he made it 184 miles. I think I made it 185 miles. And then last year, I was actually doing pretty well last year. I got out to about 190 some miles, I guess, and I had a really bad blister on my foot. I literally could not push down on the pedal. So I'm back. I'm determined. I'm Roger's finished him, and I keep trying to finish him, and I'm darn well going to finish him.
You're going to do it.
Yeah, I think I feel I finished last year, and I felt like it was possible. So that's it. Other than that, I've done long voyage. I actually met a girl in 2017 and was talking to her on a race team, and I said, "Have you ever heard of a race called Dirty Kansas?" And she said, "What's that?" And I told her, and she said, "Well, that's crazy." And about 6 months later, she said, "Hey, tell me about that race." So we did that together in 17. And now my wife is sitting here across the room listening in on this. So that was kind of, this race is kind of wrapped up a little bit in my life. So, and by the way, I'm from Annapolis, Maryland. So that's pretty much it. And I will pass it off. Oh, and B Burma, whatever your first name is, we're also base campers. So with Tim, so that's it. And I'm going to pass it off. I think Dave Chomowitz is out there somewhere. I think that's the other guy I know from him. Let's see, is Joe on? Yeah, I see Dave, but he's on he's mute.
Right, Dave's out there.
Yeah.
Oh, how's that?
That's better.
We got you.
Oh, thanks, guys. Well, Roger and I know each other because we lined up a bunch, and he really helped me out my first XL. Gave me some good tips and got me through it. I've completed two XLs, 2022 and then 23, the muddy one. That's the one I'm most proud of. Got it in, I got an official finish. And then I've also completed 5 200s, going back to 2015, first muddy one. And that was a calamity, but I got it done. I don't know, man. I broke my my derailleur at mile 20, the famous mud pit, and I converted to single speed. So it's de facto my first single speed race, 180 miles of it. Broke a finger, spokes, brake cables. I had no GPS, no lights, no nothing, but I rolled in at, I don't know, like 1:30 a.m. And I was really hooked on Dirty Kansas at the time. Loved everything about it, the town. Loved the Flint Hills. People are real nice. And I don't know if you all been go back that far, but back then there was no expo. It was like 2 tents and I don't know, a few hundred people lining up. Let's see, my background, I can go back. I used to do granny gear, 24-hour mountain bike racing, West Virginia. Done Leadville 4 times, 4 finishes, 2 podiums there. Age appropriate. Let's get that straight. High Cascade 100, Breck Epic, probably my favorite race, other than Unbound Special, Dirty Kansas, whatever you want to call it. Kansas, I don't know, just really, really love it. I'm a Kansan by marriage. My wife's from Kansas, so it's special. But Breck Epic's probably my favorite other race. I got introduced to Dirty Kansas 2014. I was out doing Leadville. I met Garth Prosser. I don't know if any of you guys know him. He's kind of a legend in Unbound and so on. And he told me about this crazy race out in Kansas. So next year I signed up. And I live in New York City, gravel capital of the world. I think Den and I are vying for old man supremacy.
Yeah.
And you're winning right now, Dave.
Hope springs eternal, Den. So next year.
Sure.
Turn it over to I see 3 others here. Chris Melman, another guy who's giving me. Is he here? He's giving me a ton of tips on
He's
stuff.
there.
Everything. He's a real deal, Chris Melman.
So I have to say, I kind of agree. I think Breck Epic is sorry, I'm in my family's mudroom because the rest of my family's asleep. But Breck Epic may be my favorite race, even over Unbound, just for the atmosphere. So I kind of have to agree there. But yeah, so I'm Chris. This will be my 3rd Unbound. I definitely want my goal at some point in the future is to win it. Definitely, that's like kind of been on my list for a long time. Yeah, I did it in 22 and 23 as well. 22 took about 7 hours less than 23 on both for soft courses. So yeah, put a hole in my frame completely through. Still have that frame. So that was yeah, that was quite an adventure. And yeah, I mean, I've done Gravel Worlds Long Voyage this year. That was my first time doing that race, and um, yeah, that was a fair bit easier. But I guess for me, like I grew up. I'm 24 now. I grew up doing or in high school I did like XC mountain bike racing, and then I found out I'm pretty terrible at short races. And by short, I mean anything under like 2 hours. So or 3 hours. So I just decided to kind of dive into some longer mountain bike stuff. And I started gravel racing in 2022. And my first time I did Unbound, I've only done the XL, and honestly, it's the only version of Unbound that I'm interested in. I think it's just because like I don't love all the corporate races all that much, to be honest. That's kind of my personal opinion. And so the XL feels like a little bit more like like that race where everyone waves goodbye, doesn't care about you, and they're like, oh wait, hopefully you guys come back in 24 hours. I kind of like that. So yeah. Who else is left here? Uh, Nathan, have you gone? I don't think so.
Okay, figured out how to turn my microphone on. I'm Nathan Hobbs. I live in Nevada City, California right now. I actually and took a look. What is it? A year before Unbound last year, and needed some motivation to get back in shape. So in December, I started training for the XL, and thankfully completed the XL last year. It was a slog for me. I was on the bike for 31 hours, and back this year to hopefully take a lot of hours off that race. Been cycling my whole life, but most of my endurance activities have been in long expeditions, either ski mountaineering or some sort of paddling event. So the XL last year and this year is my first foray back into endurance on a bike in probably, it's been over 10 years since I've done a 24-hour race. So I think I covered everything. Who have we? Well, Daniel over there is actually training really hard. Let's hear from him.
Hey guys. Yeah. Dan Eisenberg. I've done the Unbound 222 and 23. And then I actually got in 3 straight years in a row on the lottery. And I upgraded my entry from the 200 to the XL like on that Monday before the race. And yeah, it went okay. I got my face on the XL homepage, which was fun, and that kind of helped get me in this year. I went into the lottery this year and actually didn't get in. So I kind of reached out and was like, hey, my face is on the front page. Like, is there anything that can be done? Is there a wait list? And they're like, oh yeah, you're in. So that was kind of nice. Yeah, I'm in the St. Louis area. I got into gravel riding in 2019, and I had this old aluminum frame that was like 25 pounds. But yeah, I was hooked after a few local races, including the Dirty South, which is in Southern Illinois. I know I saw Roger at that earlier this year. And yeah, absolutely love my Lauf though. It's much better at gravel racing than my previous one for sure, and it's lighter. But yeah, good times. Looking forward to another XL. I think it's one of those like life-changing events. Once you're in it, you're like, oh, I definitely want to do that again. Like there's just this zone that you get into that it's hard to describe. You just have to experience it.
I think we're down to B. Berman as the last one.
Hey everybody, my name is Brian. I live in Flemington, New Jersey, not too far from Joe. I did Unbound 200 3 years ago, and I've attempted XL twice, and both times I've only gotten to about 200 miles. The mud ride 2 years ago, I did about 200 miles, ran out of water, was still doing really strong, and everyone who was quitting, I was like taking their bottles of water and drinking their saliva. and tried to take a shortcut into Eureka to get some water and then to go back. But on the way into Eureka, I got downpoured and just destroyed. And I just was like, I think it's a safe time to just call it quits. Last year I was doing pretty strong and I got to mile 200, but I'm going to definitely be in the back of the party bus, and realized I only have 140 miles to go, but everything is going to be closed, even the neutral. And I was like, I don't think I can carry enough water. And it was really humbling to have to say, I've got to quit because I'm not going to make it to the next rest stop in time. I've done the long voyage a couple times. I have made every mistake you can possibly make for every long ride. Last year, my training was doing fantastic. I was doing great. And I will tell you, don't start dating a month and a half before you start a long ride, because they will not understand why you're not near them. And that totally destroyed everything. And I have sworn off dating for a while. So I think it's just best to have plans, have friends, and work on my training right now. So that's where I am.
Nice.
Did everyone else out? Do we have anybody else?
Yeah, did we get everybody?
I think we got everyone.
Cool.
If we didn't, speak up.
Did Nathan go?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. That so the next thing that I thought we might talk about it, I mean, it's very cool that we have so many experienced XL people, and even like is it Brian Burma? Yeah, even like Brian, like for me, like I've never done it, so like I didn't know that some of the gas stations and stuff closed. So that's good to hear. But I think
if I can also make one other suggestion, because I'm towards the back, so like everyone, like I would highly recommend, it's going to be a north course. When they put out the course and show where the neutral convenience stops are, look for a second rest stop, convenience store in that area, because even if you're within the time frame, sometimes you're going to show up and go, there's no water left, because these stores are not, they're not going, oh, XL's running, we're going to stock more water. So just keep that in mind. Twice I had to do that. I had to go to a store that was still on the route, but only maybe a quarter mile down to get water. So just keep that in mind. Sorry to interrupt.
no, it's okay. And since we're on the topic, when you actually build in the map into your Wahoo or your Garmin or whatever, that's just the actual route, right? Like then you have to figure out like okay, like I know at mile 78 I need to get off and find this gas station.
Exactly.
Yeah. So here, I mean, just kind of, and I can grab something back behind me too. So, you know, whenever it comes out and it's going to give you, here's the gas, you know, here's the mile 60, here's the first option, mile 135, here's the next option, and so on and so forth. You know, I map those out in terms of going, you know, I'm not going to stop at every stop. I'm going to hopefully space it out to where, you know, I'm going 85 miles or whatever it is. And, you know, Chris just posted, you know, I have a spreadsheet that I use. Maybe Chris's spreadsheet's a whole lot better than mine, but, you know, I'll put in an average speed and go, here's where I think I'm going to be. And they're going to tell you on the writer's guide what the hours are of that location. You know, they do their best job, but are they perfect? No, they're not perfect. I'll go in, and whenever I plan out my stops, I'll use Google Maps and literally do the Google Maps street view. And I want to know exactly what the front of that store looks like. You know, so I have it in my head. I have a picture of exactly what I'm looking for. And to Brian's point, it is a good it is a good idea to know where other options are, because maybe, you know, some of the times, especially at the beginning of that race, you know, that first stop, it can be chaotic at that convenience store because you do have a lot of people coming in at once. Well, if there's one 2 blocks down the road, you might be better off hitting up that one 2 blocks down the road that isn't as busy. But, you know, I'll use the Google Maps Street View, and keep in mind, I've seen guys do it. You know, lots of times you pull in, you got your GPS going, and you're at this convenience store. Before I get off the bike, as I'm coming up, I kind of try to lock in my brain, oh, this is how I leave the parking lot. Because, you know, some of the times you're going out, okay, wait, is it straight? Is it right?
Yeah.
And, you know, your GPS is trying to get all oriented, and you might have gone around in a circle in the parking lot. So those convenience store stops, you know, if you're not concentrating and everything, you can get confused. Hang on, I'm gonna step away and grab something too.
Does anyone know if we have access to the neutral water spots or the water stops for like the 200 race?
Usually not.
If they're designated for our ride, we can. If they're not, they're off. So like the Southern route had one 2 years ago.
That we happened to pass by during the 200 time as well.
I thought it was a no, always a no.
It was a no.
I mean,
Yeah,
you rode by, you looked at them, you waved, and gotta.
There was a gas station right next to one of the aid stations in the 200. But the 200 aid station, their second aid station had a gas station right next to it. That was one of our stops, and we couldn't go to the neutral water. I should also echo Roger's point that depending on what your goals are, the gas stations can be incredibly ruthless. Like, to the point where, like, I think 2022, I learned this the hard way, that every time I got dropped was essentially in the first like 300 miles of the race was at the gas station. Like every gas station I would get dropped because people were like, yeah, it's like shoving and just absolutely crazy. So it depends on where you are in the race and what your goals are. But that first gas station, what I learned this year in the Gravel World's Long Voyage is if you could skip the first one, like the first main one, like everyone's going to stop at mile whatever, the closest one to mile 100. If you can skip that and maybe carry a little bit extra, depending on how hilly it is, honestly, that might be a good idea. Just because it is, yeah, it's chaos and it's kind of mean as well, which is probably the part I hate most about this race.
Yeah, and to that point, you know, all I can do is encourage everyone to be as nice as possible to those gas station workers.
Yeah.
You know, please, thank you, tip them. Don't be the best representation of the race you can at those stops. You know, that first, it's chaos. As you get further back in the field, it slows down. You know, mid-race, it's probably not chaos. For Chris, you know, if Chris is rolling in with 5 guys, they're at the front of the race, they're racing to win. Yeah, I'm sure it's extremely cutthroat. As you move back in the field, it lessens dramatically.
Yeah.
Here's something.
I'll comment on that. I skipped in 2022. I skipped the first one, Cassidy, and for my level, that was a mistake. I really suffered to make it to the next one. So know your limits.
They also depends on the year. Like I think after 2022, because of how some of the gas stations were treated and stuff, they decided to lengthen. I think they decided to separate out the stops more to make people have to stop and like make it like you had to spend a little bit more time there. And I think it just depends on the year as well, like what they do. Like sometimes it's kind of a mandatory. That first one might be a mandatory stop. So
yeah. Here, I'll show you guys. Hopefully you can kind of see this. This is a laminated piece of paper that I make for every race. So you know, on the one side it says all, and that's the mile marker for every single stop. Okay. And some of the times I'll have 2 columns, some of the times I'll have 3. This one only has 2. The other is where I'm planning on stopping. So, you know, that's 78, 123, 181, you know, and that's where it's kind of like, well, I have 181, 216. I don't want to do both of those, but depending upon how I'm feeling and managing it, you know, if I'm dying, you know, temperature. I mean, last year the temperature was phenomenal. It's not going to get any better than, you know, 24. Okay. 2019 doing the 200, I died. I mean, I'm good in the heat, but 2019 was just a roasting year. You know, it was well into triple digits. But, you know, I use this so I know where they are. You know, I'm not having to try to remember, because you don't want to try to remember. You know, you want to know it. And then on the back, I have, like, hard to read, but it's just reminders to me, you know, whenever I stop, throw away trash, if I need to do chain. I get cramp pills. You know, I use cramp pills to prevent cramps. You know, reminder to charge my GPS if I'm running low. So it's just basic stuff that I don't want to think about, that, you know, if I have it written down, you know, I don't have to put it in memory. I can just, when I'm at the stop, look at it, boom, I'm good, or not. But for me, something like that works. And, you know, I've already pre-planned out my stops as best possible.
Cool.
I try to go to a couple of the rest stops beforehand, before the actual ride. Obviously the first couple are close by. You can actually like drive to them. And I found that really helpful, because I was surprised that some of these rest stops were pretty small. And I was thinking, man, if all 160 of us go to this one rest stop, there's going to be nothing left by the time I got there. And I think that's what started motivating me to be familiar with at least a second rest stop. If you haven't done this, the rest stops, for the most part, at least for the first 200 miles I've done of each one, have been right on the route. You're not leaving the route to go to a rest stop. Now, I don't know about the next 150. Everyone else can speak for that, but they're on the route, and there's generally a second one. Just by chance, I've found them that are actually on the route. So,
For those that have done it before, is there anything that you had planned to get at those rest stops that you just completely weren't able to, or is it just generally a lack of food and water options if people have
I
gone
don't
through
know.
already?
I just, you can have a plan, but you have to be ready to, you have to be flexible and adaptive. And
It's also what
they may be out of your preferred, you know, you go in like, I checked out 2 or 3 of the close in ones, and I kind of had a mental map of the store, what I was going to grab. And of course, when I went in, I wasn't there. So I just grabbed Dinty Moore stew, you know, whatever. Because at that point, after 200 miles, you just need calories. Not too particular about it.
Yeah, I would also say that when you are in a rush, it's amazing how hard it is to find stuff. Like, you're never going to find what you're looking for somehow. But the other thing is, like, what I learned the first year is I had a plan and I was too rigid with the plan. And inevitably, like, if you're buying the same stuff at every store, you get really, 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 really tired of it. And so if you can just, like, if something looks good, it means you'll eat it, which means you'll be fueled. And, like, at the end of the day, like, yes, there's like perfect sports nutrition, but if the most important thing is you want something you're going to actually eat, rather than something you're going to look at and be like, oh, I can't bear to look at that right now. So that's kind of my mentality now, is like, grab what's up front, but also grab what looks good to me at that time, which can change very, or like, a lot over the course of the 24 plus hours of racing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you, Chris. I mean, I live in New York City, pizza capital of the world, and I'll tell you, I've never had better tasting pizza than Casey's Farmer Pizza at 3 a.m.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I personally still try and hit like, stuff that's like predominantly carbs, but also like stuff that a mix of solid. I tend to have a lot of solid stuff, a mix of solid, a mix of candy, a mix of like anything that, okay, I'm gonna be able to take this down. That's pretty much yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest.
Yeah. And are you guys just shoving it all down at each stop, or are you throwing it into your bag so you can have it just throughout?
Putting in like in my bag and stuff. Like I
Yeah.
pretty much would eat nothing at the stops because I like they were
Want to get going?
yeah, they were pretty
Yeah.
rushed, I would say.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing was filling your bottles, to be honest. Like that's the slowest thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what I also found was if you have, say, for example, a U-Sweet pack, they're really great, but the bladders are a little hard to fill with holding it open with one hand and trying to fill it. So what I did is I
Yeah.
used a U-Sweet pack with a Camelback bladder because the Camelback bladder has a handle, and so you can fill it faster. And so like little things like that to make it quicker. And the other thing that I really found was key was carrying cash rather than a credit card, and also making sure the cash was on your body versus in your frame bag, because inevitably you're going to be tired and you're going to walk into the gas station and be like, oh shit, I forgot my credit card or cash. And so I put the cash in my right cargo bib pocket along with my tire plugs and my CO2, so that when I went to the gas station, it was always with me versus me inevitably forgetting about it.
Awesome. And did you
Yeah.
bring a set amount of cash, or is it?
I think I brought enough cash to buy everyone food for the entire race, to be honest. I pretty much did. I think I did like $20 per gas station because I'm like just wanted to make 100% sure I had enough.
Yeah.
And typically what I do is I would go and check out, and then I just let them keep the change because I was like rushing. Also, like the reality is some of these stores, some of them are Casey's, some of them are also like independent stores. Especially the first year, I think there was a few more independent stores. So I think I did like $20 per gas station, just like a $20 bill, which was the simplest versus having to like mess around with trying to get the right change and all that stuff. So I just would do that, and that was pretty simple.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm a little different, but some of what Chris says, I do the exact same. I have, a little, well, heck, it's sitting right here on the counter. This thing that it has my money, heck, an extra battery in it, etc. That it's always in my back jersey pocket every single ride. So, I have my credit card in there, and I have my cash, whatever you want to use, credit card, cash, I pack all of my nutrition, for the whole ride. So I use, a custom blend from Infinite Nutrition. So I have it baggied out for bottles in my pack. And basically my frame bag is full of that.
Yeah.
So all I need is water whenever I pull in. And lots of times, if you're real, lots of times as guys buy stuff, everybody will leave their extra stuff, okay, there. And so lots of times, oh, there's an extra gallon of water, or a couple bottles of water, big bottles of water. I don't even have to go in the store. If there's somebody there, it's like, hey, anybody using this water? If the answer is no, I snag it, go and refill my bottles, refill my pack. Going exactly what Chris said. The Use Me pack is great, but the handle on it sucks. So I use a different brand. It's much easier to fill than what come with it. And so keep in mind all this stuff, practice. Don't do it the first time race day. Definitely don't do it, the first time that you're doing it on race day. But, I'm not relying upon the gas station nutrition, but late in the race, if I got to go in and get water, if I see a chocolate chip cookie that's screaming at me, I'm getting that chocolate chip cookie because I do want something else in my mouth. I just have fatigue, you know, on, you know, putting the nutrition down. It goes down good, but you do get just that blah. So,
And that brings up a good point. So are you, for the people who have done this before, are you bringing so your backpack with water, so it's like a liter, and then are you doing 2 bottles? Is that what everybody's doing?
I do two bottles on the frame with some kind of liquid calories, and I carry enough infinite or whatever. Refill at least for 2 other stops, get me up to mile 200 or so. And then in the hydration pack, it's just pure H2O.
Yeah,
Okay.
Personally, like I've done my first year. I did 2 bottles, so I did it was 1,500, so 1.5 liters, and then 2 liters in a pack, and that was it. And then I realized the second year my strategy was, oh, I'm going to. The gas stations were so hectic. I'm going to carry more water, so I have a little bit extra. So I use those triathlon bottle cages on my saddle. That wasn't really necessary because, as it turned out, the mud was the deciding factor. And then I learned at Gravel Worlds this year, I actually ran a ladder in my frame bag, and so I must have had 2, 3, 4. No, I had like 5 or 6 liters of water, something crazy. But what it meant is we skipped the gas station, and like me and 2 other guys had the same plan, and we all just skipped it, and so we dropped the other people who had to stop. And it was actually really nice because it meant it was really easy to access because just the hose came up and I had the magnet on my aero bars, so I could like just be in the aero bars and like drinking water right out of it. So
Yeah.
that was actually really convenient, and so I'm probably going to do that again this year. So that was 2 bottles and 2 bladders.
Cool.
I ran a
That's my
similar
plan as
system
well.
to that last year. I think I had 2.5 liters in my frame bag and then 2 liters on my back. The frame bag thing, though, that's something that I'm going to practice with more. I had practiced with it beforehand, but the amount of effort that it takes to suck the fluid all the way up from the frame bag to your mouth is more effort than it is from your backpack. And I think I had a bit of a calorie deficiency because I wasn't drinking from that frame bag as much as I should have. And I had planned for a lot of my calories to be liquid calories coming from that frame bag. So
Yes, some of those I'm a camel, so I use the USWE 3-liter smaller one, and I can go through that really quickly. I've used some frame bag ones also, and I found that some of them, those frame bags, you actually have to physically squeeze as you were like sucking on them. Whereas some of the other ones, the valve where they have it, the gravity of the water goes towards the valve, so or the port, and it makes it a lot easier to hydrate from. But my suggestion to everyone is, and the Unbound XL training plan, if you see it, like they already have it posted from the years past, I would encourage everyone to do like 150 or miles starting almost at night, so you can practice your hydration and nutrition. Because a shorter ride, you can kind of float and go, if I do a 100-mile ride, I don't need to if I make a mistake, I've got enough body fat or something to get me through that. But a 150-mile ride kind of gets you into that thinking of, did I really get my nutrition right? And you really want, like, for me, my lights, I was carrying 6 lights, which was ridiculous. I would have them. So I finally switched to a different series of lights and have been really happy, because now I'm only carrying 2 lights, one on my bike and one on my helmet. And the one on my helmet you know, when you have to have that on your helmet for, I think you might have it for like 10 hours, that's a lot of strain on your neck. So keep that in mind. You want to practice whatever you're using. But my light on my helmet is magnetic. So as soon as I don't need it, the clip and the light I can pull off as I ride and put it in one of my bags. So I'm doing a lot of indoor training right now. And I will say, and it sounds kind of stupid, but some of my longer rides, I'm going to start putting my helmet on, or an old helmet, and my hydration, even though I don't use it, just to kind of go, I made the mistake. I got a new pair of glasses right before my ride, and the helmet started leaning on my glasses, and about 20 hours in, I started having like blisters on the side of my nose. So I try to try everything out beforehand, so that you're not making major mistakes during the ride and going, okay, now I have to find a way to make a repair to my nose or something. So.
The other thing, so what I would say as well, just getting back to nutrition real quick, is sounds like a lot of people here use liquid nutrition. I personally like to separate my fueling from my hydration. So I have like a pretty low carb mix in my bottles, and usually nothing in my Camelback, and then, or my U-Sweet, and then when I refill, I might put electrolyte tabs, but that's it, just because it's quicker for me just to drop an electrolyte tab in. So I do like a lot of solid food, and you can definitely like, you know, do the race with gels and solid food if you want. You like, some people like to do liquid. I know somebody who did it entirely off of liquid, like not a single, not anything else, the whole 20. He did it in like 30 hours, which I thought was insane, but it just depends on your preference. The one thing I will say though, getting back to practice, is no matter how tough your gut is, it does not matter. Oftentimes the limiter is not your gut, it's like I don't know how to describe it, like just the idea of putting something sweet in your mouth becomes absolutely horrific. And like, I have a really iron gut, but like, it's just like looking at something sweet, like even like 150 200 mile race is something different. Once you get like, you know, 20 hours in, it's a completely different world. And so like, just being aware of that, and that's another reason why a plan doesn't always work, because at some point you might get to the point where you just want something that's not sweet, even though it's not like ideal fuel. But yeah, that's just a couple of thoughts.
Absolutely.
that-
The more of these you do, the more you learn. I have
Yeah.
an iron gut too. I can put anything down, but it's just like the taste. I just gels and goos after about 180 miles. I just really can't stand them. I try to spread those out. And then going back to the rest stop, it's a good idea to go in there and know the calorie contents of everything. So you at least have a general, like I know KC s'mores, 450 calories, you know, and that's a good, easy thing to carry with you. Say you get stuck out there, you don't have any food, that's a good one to carry. So hydration is the tough part because it's so heavy. It's such a weight hit on you. Chris is up near the pointy end, you know. I'm closer to the Lantern Rouge folks, so I'm out there a little longer.
Yeah. Going back to iron gut versus not iron gut, and not to get too graphic or vivid, but in the middle of the, like, if you gotta go, you're just getting off the bike and jumping off into the.
Yeah, I stopped at a gas station the first year, and mostly that was a mistaken amount of caffeine I take in. I don't drink coffee, and I took in about 800 milligrams of caffeine over the course of the night, which, as you can imagine, is not a good combination. And also, I took in a little too much solid food. The other thing I do now is, and I do this with all my races, is I do like a low res diet for like 2 or 3 days before. So like, and when I would say low res, I mean like as pretty much as minimal fiber as you possibly can. So like white rice, I have like sugary like cocoa puffs for breakfast, like literally like like pretty much as low fiber as you possibly can get, so that when you're heading into a race like this, you're not carrying any of that around. So you mostly, it's not for the weight side of things, it's just so you don't have to take a shit in the middle of the race.
Yeah.
But honestly, I stopped at the gas station. I was not ready to. Yeah, I just was able to to hold it in until that point. But the second year, I had to stop on the side of the road.
Yeah, yeah.
Because as you veterans know, there are rattlesnakes out in those weeds.
Hmm.
They used to hand out a disclaimer, a danger sheet about
Well,
wandering too far off the road.
And Chris, did you bring just like a couple of like, did you put just like a couple of wet wipes in your
that's what I
train bag?
do.
You want my
Yeah.
honest opinion? No.
Okay.
And that was because
Oh, nice.
I didn't really think that would be an issue. And honestly, I think there got to be a point where I couldn't have given it, like
damn.
literally
Yeah.
couldn't have
Yeah.
given a shit, pun intended. And I was just like so far gone at that point. But then the first year, like stopping in the gas station, most of the stress was that everyone was going to leave without me, which they did, except for one guy who was fixing his light. And I essentially like begged him, like, can you stay like 20 more seconds so I can fill my bottles? And then we chased back together. But that was like the most stressful poop stop I've ever had. So I would definitely say, but the reality is even if you're taking an entirely liquid diet, like there's advantages to that, but there's also the point where like your gut might you might be able to take it in, but your body's going to be like, what the hell are you doing to me? And you're just going to have to go to the bathroom. Like it's a long time. And so just, yeah, I mean, it's probably smart to pack some toilet paper. It doesn't weigh anything anyway. So,
Yeah. Cool.
I
Awesome.
would encourage people to use toilet paper over wet wipes just so that we're not leaving stuff that's going to last for ages out in the Flint Hills. Like toilet paper will eventually decompose, but wet wipes have enough not cotton, not decomposable fibers in them that some farmer is going to be like, those guys. So
Yeah.
I put it in a Ziploc baggie. So then, yeah, anything that you use, you just put it back in.
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
And keep in mind, those cows like essentially eat everything that's out there because they're just like, from what I've heard, they're curious and they just don't know better. And it does not do well for us as ambassadors because those cows do not have the ability to like digest that stuff even with like a flat stomach. So, but I prefer toilet paper because then you can also use it if you have to wrap on something that's like a small wound or something with some tape. So
cool. I know we're up on the hour. I think, like I said, this is so invaluable, but I think we all probably would want to have like a January call. Yeah. I think for me, yeah, I mean, I would love for next time, I would love to talk about like, again, like the people have done these super long rides and races. I would love to hear some about your training. I know someone did mention the lifetimes like training plan. I would love to hear like, did people follow that or are you kind of like building up? I think that would be a great topic we could cover.
yeah,
And in the meantime, get on your bike and ride.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Don't
Exactly.
wait another month before you're putting
Don't
in some
wait.
base miles. So,
but those training plans are like, look at that. But those training plans are available now from last year. It's the same training plan every year. They just change the dates on it.
Yeah.
But
and keep in mind, I mean, unless you're Chris in this group, I mean, Chris is out there to win. You know what I mean? And mad respect for him. Pretty well everyone else, we're here to finish. You know, so you know, whenever we're talking training plans, to me, you know, I think you just have to have a very, very solid base. You're not gonna. To me, I mean, some guys can get it done on less mileage than others. They just have more of a natural ability to do it. Whereas,
or they like to suffer more.
Yeah, right. I mean, right, exactly. So anyway, but yeah, I think that would be a great topic, and you know, probably training, and then maybe a little bit of more about bike, you know, bike setup. You know, we're talking a little bit, you know, about bags, and, you know, if you're thinking about not running aero bars, you might want to think about it. You know, forget about aero bars. They're comfort bars. They're different hand positions. Year one, I didn't run them, and my hands, feet, and lower back were numb for weeks, up to about 3.5 weeks after the race, because I didn't have aero bars on and limited, just beat the crap out of me. I'm a little bit older than some of you, not older than others, but right. But yeah.
I will say that with training as well, like, it the reality is it doesn't matter. Like, all of us just want to finish this race. It's one of those races where it doesn't matter who you are. It feels good to finish. And I also think that, like, this is one of those races where there's so many ways to skin it, and there's so many ways to approach it. Like Logan Casper, for example, is a friend of mine. He won in 23, the muddy year, and he got dropped very early on. And because it was muddy, he chose the right bike, and he's incredibly mentally tough. And quite honestly, it wasn't his fitness that won that race. It's that he is the mentally toughest person I know, and that's what won him the race. And then the second thing that you know, gets you through the race is eating. Like, if you can eat and you're mentally tough, you'll finish. Like, it's no problem. Like, I think those are the two things. And if you're going to train anything, I think it's like eating, being able to eat enough over the course of it is like the most important. Is the most important thing. The second thing I'd say is, if we're going to talk about equipment next time, whatever you do, don't follow all the tire chat in the Unbound group. Just ignore it. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get
Good advice. Good advice.
I do want to hear Chris's advice on tires, though.
Yeah.
What
I'll
are the
just say
winning
that
tires?
I do work with a tire company, but I will honestly say, like, and I genuinely love their stuff. The reality is, one person can run one tire, and another person can run the same tire, and one can have 30 flats and one can have 0. And it's just like how you're riding. It's what tire pressure you run. It's just
what
luck.
size.
Exactly.
It's your riding style too. You know,
Right.
there's like a light touch and just you know, like crashing through everything touch, and that doesn't do
And
it.
I think with a race like this, you're like, it's like mountain biking. But I mean, I race a lot of mountain bike races as well. And the problem is you can't pick your line, and when you're tired, you're going to make bad choices. And just like, as long as you're running a high quality, durable tire, you know, that's like the best you can do. And all of the top of the line tires now are pretty darn good. Like, as long as you're not buying something off of like AliExpress or something like that, or you know, a knockoff off of Amazon, you know, they're all pretty good tires. But the tire chat on the Unbound group gets absolutely
Insane.
it just gets insane. So
Yeah.
And
It's
also
not like back in the old days when we all raced cyclocross tires and everyone flatted.
Don't wait to get your tires too, because I know, like, I didn't buy into the chat last year, but I know so many people were like, Pathfinders are the best, do it, and like Bike Tires Direct, and like all the, like, every company, just, you couldn't find those tires.
Find them.
Yeah. So, but awesome. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll talk about gear. We'll talk about tires. We'll talk about. I also thought, open it back up. Maybe people can talk about like what the hardest points were they thought, and then especially for like us noobs, we can. I would love to hear, like, even when you're starting, like, obviously Chris is going to go like flying, but you know, we should, I don't know, like myself, I should not buy into like keeping up with everybody. So I would love to like hear all that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it sounds like we have a nice agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
I really appreciate everyone joining in. This was very valuable for me.
Yeah. Same.
Thank you for setting us up. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Have a great holiday. We got people all across the country. So yeah, have a good holiday and stay safe.
Same to you guys.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye all.
New Year. Bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.